since 2005. You're listening to Gamertag Radio with your hosts, podcaster Hall of Famer Danny Pena, the always opinionated Parris Lilly, and from outside of the norm, Peter Toledo. This is Gamertag Radio.
Now you're listening to Gamertag Radio episode 1188. This is your host Danny Pena, and also joining me, the whole crew of GTR. We're going to start with Pete. What's going on, Pete?
What's up? Welcome back. Happy New Year 2022. Excited. Let's do this.
Let's do this. And also, as always, we're here with Parris, man. What's going on, Parris?
Hey, good morning. Hope everybody's doing well.
Yeah, man. And shout out to all the viewers here. I know this is a very early recording, but we got a lot of stuff going on today. So that's why we decided to have this recording early here. But first, head over to gamertagradio.com, post your comments and feedback. Listen to our past episodes. You also can find us on any podcast app. Just search for Gamertag Radio. And also, thank you to everyone that's been submitting their reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's climbing. We need more. We need more. Keep it up. Keep it up. All right. If you would like to be part of our family discussion or segment, here's how you could contact us.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
All right, so I think we should start off the bat. The big news of this week: Microsoft is acquiring Activision Blizzard. That news came out a couple days ago. It was on Tuesday. A lot of discussions about that. A lot of discussions from Rowan, man. And look at that. Parris is wearing his PlayStation 5 shirt. He's very excited.
Somebody in the chat said there was no love for PlayStation. That is a lie.
No love. Oh my god. But let's talk about that, Parris, because it's been a very interesting week reading the reactions from the major media, from also independent content creators talking about this, the good and the bad. I think we should start a conversation with that, and then we'll talk about what happened a day later or a couple hours later with Phil's tweet. So let's start with you, Parris. Where were you when you heard about this news? Because this is a very, very early news.
It was 6:00 in the morning. I was walking downstairs and I got a news alert from the Wall Street Journal, and it made me immediately think maybe I'm not awake yet and I'm still dreaming and sleeping in bed because it didn't seem real. It was pretty shocking to get that early morning news alert and see that Microsoft Xbox had acquired Activision for $68.7 billion. So, I mean, quite honestly, it's probably the biggest acquisition. Clearly, it's the biggest acquisition in gaming history, but I do believe it's also the biggest acquisition in Microsoft history, which is also kind of shocking.
Wow. And what were you, Pete? Because it was a later afternoon.
For me, it was like in the middle of the day, and I hit my social feed, and I was just like, why is everybody? Oh my God. I'm pretty sure I had the same reaction as everybody else on the internet. And come on, really? 60? Y'all couldn't throw in the extra just to get it at 69? Come on, Microsoft. Come on, Phil.
It's all good. Now, the question I have for everyone, man, because it's been interesting reading people's reaction about this, man. Of course, everybody, celebrating, oh man, more studios for Xbox, but also there's also going to be people that are saying that this is bad for the industry, etc. Do you guys see this as a bad thing for the industry or a good thing? Because
what do you think? Yes.
Well, for me,
let's get your opinion. Yes,
I think this is good, especially how Activision was just doing the same game every year with Activision with Call of Duty, and I think it's going to change over there, man. Especially for the developers, they're going to now start making different games. Call of Duty, I don't see that coming out every year. Plus the work environment, I think is going to change completely because of it too, man. So I think it's going to be very, very positive in my opinion. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think I see this as a good thing more than bad, in my opinion. What about you, Parris?
Ask Pete.
Okay, Parris doesn't want to answer.
Hey,
Well, no, because I'm arguing with someone in the chat. So.
Oh, why are you even wasting your time with arguing?
Because he loves it. He loves it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing coming into 2018, 2019, right, was that Xbox didn't have anything in the tank, right? Now, I mean, prior to 2022, they already had a stable of formidable IP as a response to prior to the Bethesda acquisition, right? Now that they've got Bethesda, you got Fallout, Doom, Skyrim, Dishonored, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, and I think that's it for now. And then you've got, the acquisition of Ninja Theory. So you throw Hellblade into that on top of already having Halo, Forza, Minecraft, and Gears of War. And hey, we're still waiting to see Starfield enter the chat. Now you add Call of Duty, Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo, and hell, even think about Candy Crush at that point. I mean, that's insane, right? You've got a massive arsenal of first party, massive IP. And I think the talk of not having any worthwhile IP is moot at this point. And I think it's probably difficult to doubt that Game Pass is the single biggest, greatest contribution from Microsoft to gaming at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna get even better now with more content in there, man. I mean, that's the whole goal is for Microsoft to have a pretty big portfolio, new and old, for Game Pass more than anything.
It's wild. I mean, if you think about it, they had zero last generation. I mean, he had a handful of titles, but now walking into 2022, you're walking in like gangbusters to any conversation, right? You have competition, you have legitimate competition against your peers. I don't want to say, against your enemies, but they're your peers, right? Sony with their massive catalog of amazing first party games. You've got Nintendo, obviously, with theirs. Hey, well, look, Parris has his PlayStation. I'm wearing red for Nintendo these days then, okay? But I mean, shout out to them. I mean, good on Phil, good on Satya. It was an amazing acquisition.
Yeah, that is huge, man. Parris, what about you, man? You had a lot of things to say online on social media.
Yeah, I mean, this is mostly a good thing. Let's just get what I think the negative is out of the way first. We're getting dangerously close to not a monopoly. A lot of people have been screaming that, but Microsoft has already taken one major publisher off the board. Now they've taken a second major publisher off the board. Again, pretend. Now, if they went and grabbed a Ubisoft as an example, is this still a good thing for the industry at that point? You want competition across the board. And if you continue to do this, it does give you some pause to at least see how, again, this is so early. We have no idea if this is a good or a bad thing, how it's going to shake out. But I think just focusing on Activision and the studios that are there and what they've been doing the past decade or so, I think this is a good thing for Microsoft to acquire them, because now a lot of these support studios under Activision can get off of that Call of Duty treadmill. Call of Duty potentially can stop being an annual title. You know what I mean? We talk about King coming in, Candy Crush and all that. This now spreads the Xbox ecosystem more into the mobile side as well. Obviously, this is going to clearly add more value to Game Pass. I do think this can be great for creativity and new experiences, because now you have more studios that maybe they can go chase some of their passion projects versus just doing the same thing over and over year after year, which is basically what Activision had become. We obviously know from a workplace culture standpoint, this is probably sorely needed, because Bobby Kotick is going to be on his way out, and just all the issues that Activision has had over the past year or so. It's going to be imperative that Microsoft comes in and cleans up that workplace, cleans up that culture, promotes more diversity, more inclusion, have a safe work environment, for people of color and women, things like that. So overall, I do think this is a good thing. When you look at the big picture with Xbox now, You now have Xbox Game Studios, you have Bethesda, you have Activision, you have 30 plus studios that can work together, collaborate, all these various existing IPs, legacy IPs coming from the Activision side to now blend in with the rest of Xbox Game Studios. I mean, it's exciting in that way as a gamer. I mean, just looking purely as a gamer, because like I said, I think this is going to promote more creativity in the industry. Clearly, Microsoft is in this for the long haul. You know, what Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer said last June during E3, they're putting their money where their mouth is. Like I said, this is, I think, the biggest investment Microsoft has made in their history, and which goes to show you that gaming clearly is a key pillar in their overall strategy. So they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Now, how all this shakes out, only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see, because this deal isn't even going to be closed until 2023. So it's going to be a really long time before we truly see what Microsoft is going to do with all these acquisitions and how it plays out. And I'm sure we'll talk about the Call of Duty aspect of it here in a second. But like I said, I think overall, to me, this feels about 90% positive. But there is that 10% of, if Microsoft continues to do these type of big acquisitions with another publisher, is that really good for the industry? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I know people bring up, if they will acquire the Ubisoft. I don't see that happening, though. Do you guys see that happening? I don't.
No, I don't. I mean,
I
so I think the other big monster in the room was the fact that it wasn't just Microsoft that went into that conversation with them, right? We know that Facebook was one of them, and there was at least one other company that nobody seems to know who it is. Was looking into purchasing Activision Blizzard. So I would imagine for the Bethesda purchase last year that it was Tencent, Apple, Google / Alphabet, or whatever they're calling themselves, were in the conversation. You have to think that one of those three was in the room talking with Activision. Just think about it. Especially Tencent, right? Tencent owns 100% of Riot Games. Right, they own 40% of Epic. They own 11% or whatever of Bluehole, which is the big player on the Battlegrounds. They own 5% of Ubisoft, 5% of Activision Blizzard, and then a whole bunch of other ones. Platinum Games, Supercell, Frontier, Paradox, and the list goes on and on and on. So and Discord as well, right? So you have to think that one of those was in there. I'm curious. I'd love to get your guys' opinions on this. What tipped the deal into Xbox's favor? Was it the financial security of having the largest software company in the world as the backer? Was it a trust in Phil? Because we know that Phil has a great relationship with the heads of both sides, right? Whether it was the Bethesda side or it was on the Activision Blizzard side, or was it a combination of both that did it? And to answer your question, Parris, this is the largest one. The second largest purchase from Microsoft was $26 billion. It was LinkedIn in 2016.
Oh, LinkedIn? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I didn't know it was there, up there.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the question, what do you think tipped that deal into Big Green's favor?
I think it's maybe it was because of the money, higher bidding, in my opinion. And probably the company also mentioned things that they could do for Activision, Blizzard, etc. But I think it's more because of the bidding, in my opinion, because that's a lot of money. Because
from what I've read, because what I was studying and reading up on this leading up to today's call was that Microsoft initially came up and said, it was Phil talking to Bobby Kotick about, hey, y'all have a problem here with this whole workforce thing. How can we help? How can we help? So hold me, give me a second. See? Yeah. So they had the conversation that turned into, hey, we can offer you a better opportunity over here at Microsoft. It pushed them away. They pulled back, and then both Microsoft and Activision engaged with, I think one was Goldman Sachs on the Microsoft side, and it was another consultant on the Activision side to actually start having the conversation. Satya got involved and started brokering the conversation, and then the deal went through. But the question is still, do you think Do you think the trust in Phil, because of his friendships with the heads of both of those organizations, helped foster that deal on both sides, or do we think it was just because, Microsoft's the biggest player in software in the world?
Well, first of all, Pete, I heard that multiple people mentioned this, that this has been in talks for over 9 months. So this was not like a recent thing.
I didn't say it was, though, but I mean, and they've been having, but you mentioned about this workplace, issue has been going on a lot longer than 9 months. But
oh yeah, I'm talking, but that out to the public was recent. It's not that's not like an old thing, like publicly. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I had to mention that very quick, that this has been going on for a while, this conversation, So, but I like I said, I think it's more because of the money. I think more than anything. Now with this whole thing went out, I think that's the reason why you got to see like these leaks of conversations behind the scenes from Microsoft, that letter that Phil sent to like the employees of Microsoft at Xbox about Activision. I think that was going on, and it came out publicly. In my opinion, I'm not saying it's going to happen. That it happened for real. I think that happened publicly because of the talks that was happening with Activision. That's what I think personally. They just came out like that. But Parris, you want to say anything about that?
No, we keep going.
Okay, all right, move on. So the question I do have for you guys, because again, this happens every single time Microsoft acquired a company. Do you guys still think that a game like Call of Duty, which is the biggest game that comes out every year and the biggest game on PlayStation, do you think that game is going to be exclusive? Because we saw that tweet from Phil Spencer, from Microsoft Gaming. He said that he had a conversation with the team at Sony, and the wording is kind of slick in my opinion, but he said that, the game is still going to come out for PlayStation as an exclusive, but for now, until once all the agreements, all the exclusive contract is done. So that's the way how I read it. But do you guys still think this game is coming out on PlayStation as an exclusive or no? Parris?
Well, it's not exclusive. I mean, it's
that's good. Marketing exclusive. I mean, sorry about that.
I mean, it honestly just comes down to whatever the contracts are. Like they've said, they're going to honor whatever their contractual obligations are. So I would imagine Sony and Activision probably had some ironclad deal for X amount of years that clearly Xbox is going to have to honor until that runs out. When all this first broke, my initial thought was, okay, Warzone is going to continue to live everywhere. Legacy Call of Duty titles aren't going to go anywhere. They're not going to all of a sudden shut down, all the multiplayer servers for, like for Vanguard or anything like that. I've just assumed that any new Call of Duty experiences would probably just wind up being on Xbox. If I had to guess, if I had to assume in the short to near term, let's say because again, I'm just assuming with the contract, let's just say the contract goes until 2025. Call of Duty will continue to show up on PlayStation just as it does today, right? I don't think anything changes. Once that contract ends, now probably Sony and Microsoft are going to go to the negotiation table if that's going to continue. Because I was thinking about this, kind of comparing it to Minecraft, where it seems to me, if you're a heavy online presence game, Xbox wants that on as many platforms as possible. They don't really care if you're on another platform. Mm-hmm. It's more of the single player experiences they're trying to make exclusive, because regardless, all these things are going to show up on Game Pass, which also asks the other question. There could be a contract agreement that Call of Duty can't show up on Game Pass. So maybe it doesn't show up in the short term like everyone's expecting, because again, pay attention to everything that Phil Spencer's been saying this week. We're going to put as many games as we possibly can on Game Pass, which tells me there's some legalese out there that's preventing some of those games from showing up on Game Pass. If you go back to the Bethesda deal, remember things like, I believe, like Wolfenstein 2, Evil Within, stuff like that, didn't initially show up on Game Pass with everything else because there were some contractual agreements that were preventing it. So I think this is going to be the same thing with some of these Activision titles, and even more specifically Call of Duty. So I think short term, like I said, probably well into 2025, nothing's really going to change as far as Call of Duty being on PlayStation. I think after the contract ends, that's when negotiations start. A lot of people like, oh, Game Pass is going to be on PlayStation. I don't think it's going to be that crazy. I just think it's going to be, there's going to be some give and take on some other things. Maybe, like you said, with the marketing deal, no longer does PlayStation get to dominate that. That now goes back to Xbox, things like that. But there's going to be some give and take from the PlayStation side to the Xbox side, if Call of Duty, once the contracts end, continue to show up on a PlayStation platform. But I think at a minimum, Warzone, regardless, will continue to just be everywhere, no matter what.
Yeah, another thing too, I think Sony needs to start making games with multiplayer instead of just only focus on the single player experience, like a game like SOCOM. Hey, bring that back. Killzone, bring that back. I think that will be very helpful for the PlayStation audience. So what about you, Pete? Do you think Call of Duty is going to be Xbox exclusive like Starfield, or this is going to be like Minecraft?
I don't think so. I don't think it becomes an exclusive thing. I mean, we take Phil's word at verbatim, and he goes, had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry, and we value our relationship. I mean, that says Call of Duty is going to be on multiple platforms, right? That will be available for PlayStation players. That's where most of the players are currently. I think, like you guys said, once that marketing agreement ends or exits, whatever the date is on the paperwork, I think that's when you no longer see these timed exclusives for that favor Sony in that respect. At the end of the day, you're still going to see that Microsoft logo. You're still going to see Xbox wink. You're going to hear that little sound effect and everything on the commercial. So it's not going to hurt them in any way, shape, or form. They are going to be there. I think you'll still be able to play Call of Duty on PlayStation. Question is, will it just be Warzone, or will you have access to the entire aspect of Call of Duty? Right, whether it's the single player campaign or what have you, will you see any of that, or will you only have the free to play option of Warzone available on PlayStation?
Well, see, I also think, and this goes back to just the overall thought when the acquisition went down, that here's a golden opportunity to stop doing these annual releases of Call of Duty. Yes, Warzone will continue. You'll iterate on that. That's fine. But, you got Treyarch, you got Sledgehammer, you got Infinity Ward, you have Raven, High Moon, as support studios. Kind of break that up. Maybe, like as an example, imagine if Treyarch could go, what is an original idea that Treyarch wants to do? They take a break from Call of Duty for the next 5 or 6 years, because now they get to go make a brand new experience. We obviously know, the legacy of the people that are Infinity Ward, and even at Sledgehammer as an example. Maybe they go do something else, right? Instead of just continuing to make Call of Duty, you allow Raven to dip back into their legacy IPs and make something, right? High Moon. Remember that Transformers game they made? It was freaking amazing. Not that necessarily going to make that, but maybe they can go do something original. You take Call of Duty, and I'm talking the big epic campaign experiences that they do, instead of it being on that annual treadmill, maybe you only get that every 3 years. Now, look, not that Battlefield is in the best place in the world right now, but you don't see a Battlefield every year, and they had a pretty good track record until recently. So maybe Call of Duty can actually evolve and turn into something else that players want, versus what it is. Look, my personal opinion, people yell at me if they want. If you ask me, Call of Duty has been the damn same since 2007. for me, right? So that's why I've not been excited about a Call of Duty game in the last 5 years. So I would like to see Call of Duty do something else versus what it has been doing over the past decade, right? I think this is that opportunity. I think this is that opportunity to have these studios unlock their creative freedom, do some new experiences, continue, obviously, the IP. It is the number one selling game in the world, and it has been for a long time. But now being under Xbox, where for Activision, it had to be the cash cow to lead that publisher, Microsoft does not necessarily need Call of Duty to be that annual cash cow for them the way that Activision did. So I do think there's an opportunity here to slow it down and allow these developers to do something new. So that's my hope. Whether it stays on PlayStation, ColecoVision, or whatever the hell it's going to be, I really don't care. I'm tired of seeing Call of Duty every year because I think it's been run into the ground, similar to what Activision did with Guitar Hero and DJ Hero and all that, to where they literally had to retire it. Skylanders got run into the ground again, as another example. So these are good IPs. The problem was the fact that you just kept doing them every year. So you never got a break from it. You never got to miss it. I want to miss Call of Duty so that when the next time I see it, I get excited about it versus go, okay, it's November. Here's another Call of Duty again. You know what I mean? So We'll see.
Yeah, and also another game Parris they should bring back, Pitfall. Remember from the Atari back in the early days?
This is what I'm saying. They have a legacy vault. You could modernize Pitfall and bring it back. You could, because it was funny. That was like the first Major Nelson updated his Twitter profile with Pitfall. Yeah.
Because Pitfall could be like kind of like an Uncharted single player experience, right? Just that would be awesome.
That would be dope. I really like that.
That would be really good. and also, DJ Hero, my God, I know most likely might see some Guitar Hero in the future come out, but DJ Hero will be awesome. Another game that I truly love. Should bring that back. Now, the question I do have for you guys is the conversation of content creators where they will post recordings. It could be audio, video, and post online saying about how bad this thing is for creativity, for all this stuff. Microsoft acquiring, but when it's the other side acquiring a studio, like let's say Sony, which I think Sony acquired a couple studios last year. It was everything was good. There was no bad thing about that. What are your thoughts about that, man, for you guys? Because I just find it very strange when Microsoft is really bad, but when it's Sony, it's like the greatest thing in the world and it's really bad. And I think I find that just hilarious when I see those tweets and content video on YouTube or podcast when it goes live. And I don't know, I find it like it's very unbiased and very, I don't know.
Well, my thought on it is pretty simple. I really don't care what another content creator says because that's their opinion and they're entitled to their opinion. Yeah. I will say that I don't look at, like I said, this is 90% good, 10% bad. Mm-hmm. I would say that from a creativity standpoint, like I've been talking about already, I can say with great confidence, this is a good thing for creativity because again, this allows these developers to start doing new things versus just running on the Call of Duty treadmill, right? So I don't see how this is a bad thing for creativity. And we've already started to see, again, take as an example, Double Fine. Xbox acquired Double Fine. If you've listened to anything that Tim Schafer has said since, it was a good thing for him, because it allowed him to just focus on the creative process of making games versus having to worry about all the other stuff. This is the philosophy that they're bringing into the culture of all these studios under Xbox Game Studios. So now you're taking those studios out of Activision and you're going to apply that same philosophy to them. You're going to be able to ask these studio heads, what do you want to do? What is the creative thing you need to do versus you got to make Call of Duty. You got to make Call of Duty. You got to make the next Overwatch. You got to make you got to just keep pumping these things out because they make so much money. I mean, the reality of it is Activision was not being treated as a publisher that was promoting the creative process, right? They were, Bobby Kotick was making money. He was a businessman. I get it, clearly. It just sold for almost $70 billion, which they actually probably got a bargain on that versus what the true value would have been if there wasn't all the culture issues over there, right? So when you take it from that aspect, that now under Phil Spencer's leadership, under Xbox, you're telling those same studios, go make your passion project. You can go take a risk now, right? Versus having to just take the safe bet over and over. So we'll never know how this is going to play out until, you know, it'll be over time. So we can't answer that question today. But to sit here and say this is bad for creativity, it's like, did you not look at the place that all these studios just came from and what they were doing? You saw Bungie as an example, because, you know, I'm a huge Destiny fan. They got so sick of the Activision culture, they literally bought their freedom. They're like, we got to get the hell out of here. Because here's the thing. As an example with Destiny, they're still on Destiny 2, which came out in 2017. Under Activision, we knew what that old roadmap was. We'd be talking Destiny 4 at this point, because that's the cash cow. You got to keep it going. You got to keep it going. You can't slow down and be creative. I honestly, Destiny would not be in the place that it is in right now if they were still under Activision, because Activision wouldn't allow that. They were, we got to pump to the next thing. We got to do the next thing. So that's why I go back and I look at Call of Duty. Where could Call of Duty be if it wasn't on the treadmill under Activision? Call of Duty could be a vastly different experience right now if they weren't under Activision. So to say that it's bad for creativity, in my personal opinion, is very short-sighted. But I will also say, any creator out there that wants to tweet, wants to post a video, wants to do a podcast, a freaking 20-hour spaces, whatever the hell you want to do, do what you want to do, because that's your opinion. You're allowed to have your opinion. That's valid. Just like I'm allowed to have mine. So I may you know what happens. You know what happens. So I'm just saying, people are allowed their own opinion, but to me, no, this is good for creativity.
Yeah. I blame all this Parris. It's all Parris' fault.
It's all your fault.
It's all Parris'
hey,
fault.
clearly, all of this. There's news articles with my face on it that says it's all my fault.
And you're like this. Hey, P, you want to say anything about this?
I mean, I think it's absurdly difficult at the end of the day to say something this early. I mean, can we at least wait until the ink dries and the dust settles before we start screaming bloody murder that this is bad for creativity and bad for devs and whatnot? God forbid, don't get me started on the exclusivity talk. Every platform has it. It's how they lock you into their respective ecosystems. It's a business at the end of the day. I'm just sick of hearing how it's bad if and when Microsoft does it. When others have done it as well. And we all know Sony at the end of the day has had this long-going strategy of exclusivity deals tying franchises to their platform. And my only question is this, or was this the only way Xbox had to circumvent that, right? Neither of them are going to be absolved of any previous evils or anything. Both companies have a history of acquiring studios during this entire time, right? You got Insomniac back in 2019, and then boom, over the last year, Firesprite, Housemarque. Hell, I didn't even know this. I had to look it up. They bought Evo.
Last year.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Is there a Spider-Man without Sunset Overdrive, right? It's, Sony tried to charge that Xbox tax or whatever to developers for not favoring Big Blue and going, and doing multi-platform games. At the end of the day, look, and we've been saying this for years. Now that the dust has settled, can we as fans finally accept that this is a win for us, the gamers, the content creators? Does it really matter which plastic box you play? I remember I got flamed years ago for saying I'd rather have a single play it all system. And you know what? Years later, I still stand by that. I'd rather have a single box that can play Sony and Nintendo or Xbox games or PC games. Makes life a hell of a lot easier for us as consumers. So I at the end of the day, I still think this is great for Activision Blizzard because we all know that they've had massive issues with respect to the work environments. But as Parris, so succinctly said, Man, giving development teams, which are creatives at the end of the day, the flexibility to work on creative projects, especially in light of this horrible history of consolidating teams just to be, Call of Duty support teams. Man, I can't wait to see what these development teams finally get a chance to put out that isn't a Call of Duty support title. It's the next few years is going to be amazing, I think, as a result of this purchase. So good on them.
You're listening to Gamertag Radio. This is Gamertag Radio.
All right, and it's time for fan mail.
Fan mail at gamertagradio.com.
My sad face. Let's go. Let's go and play this one right here.
What's going on, Gamertag Radio? How are you brothers doing? This is Keon calling from Baltimore. And wow, what a day. Oh man, what a day. I guess we all know now that Microsoft has acquired Activision. Phew, yeah, that just happened. I'm still in quite a bit of shock. But my question to you guys is, okay, over the last 2 years, they've acquired Bethesda as well, ZeniMax, as well as Activision, two huge publishers. The question from me becomes this. Do you think that Microsoft is done? Is this enough? Should they wave the white flag and say that this is it? Or do you think that Microsoft will continue to pursue more studios? For me personally, yeah, I think Microsoft could chill out a little bit, kind of relax. We see that you're taking this real seriously now, if for anybody that might have doubted it, and that you're trying to make Game Pass the best gaming service possible. But I think that they should, they might be able to hold off a little bit. But I would love to get you guys' opinion on this. Will Microsoft continue to buy more developers and, good grief, publishers? Thank you guys for all of the hard work. It is greatly appreciated, and you guys take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so shout out to Keon, man. Thanks for sending us this voicemail. Is Microsoft done? That's a great question, because I think Microsoft is not done. I think we might see more studios under Microsoft Gaming in the future, especially from the Japanese side. I think Microsoft needs that one company from Japan, one studio, I think. And I think that is going to be the next one, in my opinion. So I don't see Microsoft stopping anytime soon. But do you guys agree or disagree? Pete, you see more companies coming up, or you think this is it for Microsoft?
Satya Nadella said it last year, like Parris said earlier at the Xbox presser. They're looking for quality acquisitions that do nothing but bolster their catalog, which, like I said at the beginning of the show, is already massive right now as a result of if they get Crash Bandicoot back. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I have no problem seeing them picking up another studio or two. They're going to, I think they continue to do it as long as it fits their profile of what they're looking to do. Whether it's bringing retro titles back to the forefront, new IPs and giving developers an opportunity to finally get out of their rut of only, either being support studios or being stuck on a specific title. I think it's good. I don't have a specific problem. Now you start saying they start buying every single one up under the sun. Yeah, then we start having an issue. But until then, I think we leave it as is, and I think we just take it on a case by case basis. I think it's fine.
Parris, do you think Microsoft is done?
No, they're not done. Kind of like you alluded to, they definitely want to get a heavier presence over in Japan. So it wouldn't shock me to see them acquire a studio or two over in Japan to go along with Tango, which they got during the Bethesda deal, so they could make more game, like Japanese RPGs, but more games that cater to that audience, right? Because they obviously still want to try and build their presence over in Japan, which they've been trying to do for 20 years. But no, overall, yeah, it seems to me the acquisitions that make sense, they're going to continue to do. And kind of like I said at the beginning, is if that's going to be a good or a bad thing, don't know. I mean, we'll have to see as we move forward. I think the fear is the consolidation of the industry as a whole, where you just have one or two major players that basically control everything that's happening throughout. And the irony is, even though Microsoft has acquired Activision, they're still only the third biggest game company in the world right now, behind PlayStation and Tencent. So it's not like they've all of a sudden created this big monopoly. But like I said before, imagine if they acquired a Sega or a Capcom or Ubisoft or something like that. Now you honestly have to at least pause and take a second look at this and go, is this really a good thing for the industry? We honestly will not know anytime soon. I mean, hell, like you said, this Activision deal itself, we won't even know the ramifications of it until probably late 2023, as an example. So it's just going to take time to see. But to the original question, no, I don't think they're going to slow down on studio acquisitions. They're just going to do ones that make sense for them.
Yeah. But everyone, make sure to send us more questions, and we'll play it here or read it on the show. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Gamertag Radio episode 1188. This was a great conversation. I'm glad that we got to get the whole crew. We haven't recorded together, I think, since maybe November or so. I think it's been a while. Man.
Might be.
Yeah. So head over to gamertagradio.com and listen to our past episodes. You can find us on any podcast app. Just search for Gamertag Radio. Make sure to follow us, subscribe, and also post your review. If you'd like to be part of our FAMO discussion and, you want to disagree, agree, or just send us feedback or questions, here's how you can contact us.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
All right. Anything else, guys, before we wrap it up? Parris, Pete?
Nothing for me.
Actually, Bungie, the Bungie spotlight, man.
No, we keep it going. Let's end the show.
Oh, wow. You don't want to promote that?
I mean, I was on the Bungie blog this week on the community spotlight, and I really appreciate Bungie reaching out to me for that. Just got to talk about my history playing Destiny over the years, how I got into content creation, all that. It was a great honor. So I appreciate that.
Good. Well, what about you?
I don't like talking about myself. So.
What about you, Pete?
No, again, shout out to Parris for getting on that spotlight. Look, at the end of the day, I just hope that it sheds more light and improves that horrifying workplace culture that they have over there. I am curious, though, because we saw that beautiful image of Phil as now CEO of Xbox Games with an extremely diverse cast of executives under him. Will they still be following the same process with Activision to be run as separate businesses with existing leadership in place? Todd Howard's still head at Bethesda. And this same approach has been used for previous acquisitions, notably Mojang, LinkedIn, and GitHub. And I know it'll be addressed, and I think the overarching thought pattern is that Bobby will be, escorted out, likely with a golden parachute, as most executives do these days. But how does that impact all the other ones where it's all of a sudden now Activision's no longer, is no longer run separately, right? Do they just assign someone from within the team or find someone externally to take over? Or do they now start splintering off leadership responsibility to other folks at Xbox Games?
The theory is it'll be Mike Ybarra. Because
Okay,
remember he was at Xbox, he went over to Blizzard, but the running theory, it would be Mike Ybarra basically just runs the quote unquote Activision Blizzard, tier of it, under Phil. But look, there was a reason they put out that org chart for the leadership over at Xbox, and there's a reason that they're now listing Phil Spencer as CEO of gaming at Microsoft, so don't be fooled by that. And I know I'll just say this last thing before we get out of here.
Yeah.
If you looked at that leadership, there was a lot of women on there, and there were some people of color on there as well. I think that's very important that they did that and they put that out there. Some people didn't think it was enough, but change takes time, and I can say from the little that I do know about the leadership over at Xbox, they're very aware of it. They're very aware of the need for diversity and inclusion at the leadership level, because then it's going to trickle down from there into the rest of the workforce. So again, I just think the acquisition, if for anything, is a good thing, because I think that philosophy is now going to be applied into Activision Blizzard, and hopefully we'll start seeing some changes over there very soon.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, and everyone, please hit us up. We would love to hear your feedback, thoughts, and we'll play it here on the show, man. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back later this week. I'm gonna have a new episode here, and I'll probably put up one of the spaces that we did, Parris, which was a very interesting one. I gotta put that up. That was really good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Until next time, everyone. Take care. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.